Welcome to Mission Imperfect, the podcast about finding your own path, your own way, and embracing the imperfection of the journey.
We're your hosts, life coaches, former HR professionals, and mums, Kirsty and Kathryn.
We love to discuss the topics that come up time and time again for our coaching clients and which affect us all, from things like acceptance and boundaries to values and well-being and everything in between.
Each episode ends with a question for you and us to reflect on. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to grab a cuppa and a biscuit and join us in getting lost in finding ourselves. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mission Imperfect. And it is the beginning of December, and so that means, of course, that all thoughts are turning to the C word. And we actually had some debate about what to call this episode, didn't we? So we've got two working titles, and you can choose the one that suits you. Yeah, listener choice. So it can be stress-free festive season or stressless Christmas. Christmas,
Yeah, I
stressless
like that. I think we can make it Christmas, couldn't we? Stress less
Christmas.
Christmas.
I think that works, doesn't it? Actually,
Yeah.
and this was your brainchild, Kathryn. So tell us about having a stress-free festive season.
Well, you know what? I just think it's the time of year when, in theory, it's all about being a bit jolly, isn't it? And I love that word jolly. We don't get to use that enough, do we? In fact, you associate jolly with Christmas, don't you? You know, the roly-poly, Father Christmas, that kind of thing.
It's a
And
jolly
and
good
about
word.
what's that?
It's a jolly good word.
It is a jolly good word, as is roly-poly. And it's it's having quality, happy time with with our loved ones, family, and friends. In reality, it can also be a source of stress and a bit of aggravation for
Mhm.
people. And I just thought, do you know what? It stemmed from I hosted Christmas 2 years ago, and I just thought I
Brilliant.
don't want to have a stressful Christmas. So I'm gonna choose as much as possible to not have one. And I blogged about it, and I just thought actually it ended up being quite a relaxed and fun time, kind of what we hope it's going to be. So I thought, why don't we this time of year? Are you starting to feel festive yet, Kirsty? When in December do we start to feel festive? It's funny, isn't it? In our household, we like to put the decorations up early. My daughter's still relatively young, but for me, I tend to start to feel Christmassy around at least sort of mid-December. What about you?
About the 24th, if I have to.
Yes.
Bar humbug.
Are you secretly Scrooge, Kirsty?
Damn, I've been outed.
You might get some visitors overnight on Christmas Eve to help you see the error of your ways. No, I get it. I get it. It some of it can feel a bit, sort of manufactured and forced, can't it? And I don't think anyone likes that. And I thought, let's talk a bit today about how to avoid or at least try to reduce that stressful side of Christmas and,
Hmm.
and maybe infuse a bit more of the jolly bit.
Excellent plan. Yeah, because it does get so stressy, doesn't it, for so many people. So what do you think makes it so stressful?
So I think it primarily comes down to a couple of areas. One about the increased responsibilities, like there is more to do at this time of year. Certainly,
Yeah.
if you have school-age children as well, there's extra things are going on. And then there's also something around the expectations of Christmas, these sort of connotations we have, there'll be a white Christmas. When have we ever had a white Christmas? Can you remember having one? Because
I
I
don't
don't. We
think
get we
so.
get snow in February, I reckon, if we ever get it. It's not like magical glistening snowflakes on Christmas Day, that kind of scene that we sometimes think about when you think of like a Christmas card, isn't it, for
Yeah.
example?
Yeah, Christmas rarely looks like the Christmas cards unless they actually depict an awful lot of used wrapping paper and ribbons strewn about the house,
Yes. Yeah,
which
exactly.
they rarely
And
do actually.
I just think people can get caught up in a lot of the like I said, the expectations and those responsibilities, and it just compounds the sort of stress. So,
Mm.
for example, just talking about this idea of what Christmas should look like, this idea of trying to make it seem perfect for everyone. And this can be for a combination of people, right? You might have young children, grandchildren, you might have older relatives, you might be hosting. What's this idea of the magical Christmas and traditions that you might have to uphold or feel like you need to uphold? And we can start to compare, can't we? We've we have this as a hot
Yeah.
topic for us as well. Like we said, most things we talk about do have some kind of connection, and then I think there's presents. Do we exchange them? Who's
Mm.
going to receive them? Budget? Who will they be from as well? Will it be
Yeah.
from the jolly person that sneaks down the chimney, or from family? How much? All of these things start to go into play. Then Christmas dinner. This is one of my favorite topics, Kirsty. And after all that, it's only one meal. That's what really gets
Yes.
me. It's one blinking meal.
Well, although we do eat enough for about 6 meals, so that might just
This
be
is
me.
true.
Yeah.
This is true. I have to be honest. After Christmas dinner, we say dinner. We have it in the middle of the day. Interesting to know when other people have theirs. I say middle of the day. It ends up being that weird between lunch and
It's
dinner
more
time. So,
afternoon
so
tea time, isn't it?
yeah, it's kind of like 3 o'clock maybe ish.
Yeah.
If intentions are all well and good. Um, And of course, there's been snacking beforehand. We'll talk about more about snacks. And then I don't really feel the need for much else, but it's still just one meal, what I mean? I feel like, and it can dominate the whole day. And that's not much fun either, is it? If you're slaving away potentially in the kitchen on Christmas Day, I don't think that's really what people want to necessarily be spending their time doing. That's not really
No, and unless cooking is
super.
your major passion, it's not a lot of fun for a lot of people, is it?
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that's obviously just about Christmas Day itself, but then in the whole sort of build up, there's the time, the funds, the willpower. It's all the extras. Things get every year. There seems to be a bit of a, oh, well, how is it going to be bigger and better? The events, parties, grottos. Who invented it? Elf on the shelf. Honestly, what
I
that
am
monstrous idea.
so glad my son was too old when that came out.
Yeah.
I you have
To be
my son.
honest, well, I've avoided it. I've just never gone there. I've managed to get away with it
Well done.
somehow
Yeah.
because I have seen some funny posts where someone accidentally left their elf in the oven and then turned the oven on. That's a bit of a shame. It's kind of like the rapid decline of the elf on the shelf one year. Whoops. But there's carol
Roast elf.
concerts. Yeah, exactly. Christmas jumper days. It goes. It can become endless, can't it? And it can take over most of the month, and it can feel like you have to keep up always with these newer, bigger, better things.
There's always
Um,
something. Mm.
yeah, exactly. And then you added a really good thought on this because well, the visiting that you might feel
Yeah,
obliged to do over the festive season.
the running around and the visiting. I mean, I was kind of aware of this as a child, with two sets of grandparents who didn't live locally and trying to manage that, and an aunt and uncle who weren't local, and trying to find the time for that. But then when my parents subsequently divorced, it got exponentially more complicated. Um, and whereas before it might have been everybody getting together, it suddenly wasn't, and you've got to try and find the time and the means of getting between, you know, two two different households on the same day. Then, of course, for as you get older and you've got partners and so on, it's which set of parents are you going to be with, or which set of parents are going to come to you? Can they all come? Is there room for them? If you don't live near them, it's how much space have you got for people to stay? And it can end up in so much running around and trying to juggle that with, what time you might or might not get off work. Because very often, you'll be having to compete for the time off at work. And,
Mm.
if you only, in a lot of office environments, you will only get the actual bank holidays off. And that can really limit your opportunities to get any distance to spend any time with, different parts of your family. So yeah, that can be really tricky and get very political.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Um,
Especially if you feel like you've got to spend 50-50. Like, I must spend 50% with this side of the family, 50% with, so I'll cut Christmas Day right down the middle to your disadvantage just to keep some kind of magic equilibrium on this one particular day. But we'll come on to some of our ideas around some solutions in the next part because
Absolutely,
yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to conform to this exact idea for one day. We can perhaps think a bit broader about that. And I know you've got some excellent
Outside the
thoughts on that,
box,
Kirsty.
yeah.
But also there's a coming back, you made a really excellent point about all this Christmas socializing can be quite draining, can't it?
Oh yeah. Speaking on behalf of introverts everywhere, it can be utterly knackering. And some people are so up for all the Christmas parties and all the sparkle and the getting dressed up and the hangovers, etc. And good on them. It is lovely when people can have something to look forward to and enjoy it. But for those of us who are at the more introverted end of the spectrum, it becomes very draining very quickly. It's it's always so loud. I mean, just going around the shops, you're being bombarded with bloody Christmas music endlessly. And and yeah, it is particularly tiring to have to deal with that. And all that, the overwhelm from all that external stimulation. Yeah, there are far more lights and decorations going around, lots more things flashing at you and making noises at you than usual. So just all in all, it can be very overwhelming without any of the rushing around and the having to sort out presents and dinner and visiting and everything else. And then at the really opposite end of the scale, we tend to think of the stress in terms of everything we have to do, everybody we have to see, parties and everything. There are those who don't have any of that. And it becomes a very lonely and isolated time when it feels that, everybody in the country is talking about the excitement of Christmas and how busy they are and all the people they've got to see. And for those sitting there on their own or who are experiencing a shrinkage of Christmas, when you've been used to that, all that stress and the big family gatherings and everything else, and maybe, your kids have left home and it's not your turn to be with them on Christmas Day this year, or your parents aren't around anymore, whatever, for a lot of people as they get older, their Christmases can shrink. And yeah, and being on your own or not being as busy or as social as everybody else seems to be, that brings its own sort of stress and anxiety and depression with it, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I realise it feels like we've probably reeled off quite a few issues with Christmas, but we want to just make it, we're not going to be all doom and gloom about it. We just wanted to highlight that,
It's a
I
Polish
guess what
Christmas.
was, yeah, we can see where there are sources or areas in which it can become stressful for people. And that can include at different ends of this spectrum of busyness, and then the very opposite of that. Um, and this pressure we can feel, ironically, just because it's a time of year when, in theory, we should be feeling the opposite. So we thought, let's try and talk a little bit to, now that we know why that stress can creep in,
Hmm.
what can we do about it? And I think let's just start with this idea of this sort of magical time. And I just like to start with something very simple, which is that you get to decide what that looks like and therefore what it's going to feel like. So we don't have to recreate traditions. We don't want to just because it's what we've always done or we think it's how it should be. So there you go. My example is I didn't buckle and start elving on shelving because I just thought I'm going to run out of ideas. I'm going to forget. I'm going to give the game away. It's just going to be a bit of a disaster. Didn't want to add that additional pressure in, and I just managed to
Yeah.
kind of slide by it.
Hmm.
My daughter's a little bit older now, so she wouldn't be so bothered. But it wasn't something that she missed. I don't think it would be like an overriding memory that she'll feel like she drastically missed out on having an elf dotted around the house. Do you know what I mean? I didn't
Poor
feel
traumatized child.
I bad me not doing it. You know what I mean? I just thought I'm not going to start that new one because I don't really feel the need to. But equally, you don't necessarily have to keep old ones. And now, so
Yeah.
for example, let's talk about traditional Christmas dinner. I actually do one. I do like a nice roast dinner, but to me, I only see it as a slightly fancier roast dinner. That's it. I don't really call it
Yeah.
Christmas dinner. Do you know what I mean? I don't think I need to make it into anything much more extraordinary or different from what it is. It's just a really nice roast dinner. And if you're lucky, you'll get a pig in blanket as well this time, because I don't do that ordinarily. But if you don't fancy it, and especially when you were talking about the shrinking Christmas, if you don't fancy doing a massive roast dinner because you haven't got so many people, then don't. Who's to
Yeah.
say that you have to? I had a colleague, my former workplace, who explained that they didn't want to spend much time in the kitchen on Christmas Day. So they used to actually get a takeaway on Christmas Eve and then heat that up Christmas Day. That was their Christmas Day meal. So no
Love
one
that.
was spending their time in the, and I was like, wow, that's so different. But why not?
Yeah. Why not? It's about, Christmas is a time when we want the magic, we want it to be magical for us. And everybody's magic is different, isn't it? So if it's, and we keep coming back to it's about, the people you're spending it with, it's about the giving, not the receiving. So, why not make it work for you and the people around you in the way that suits you?
Yeah, definitely. And as you very rightly said, how magical is it if you're stressed up to the eyeballs and worried about all the money you're spending? I quite agree. It's because we'll come on and talk about gifts as well, but just staying on that theme on the moment about perhaps hosting Christmas. And this was a big learning for me. So I did host for 2 years ago. And I'm actually hosting again this year, Kirsty. Not I've got 7 for Christmas Day, 10
Oh,
for Boxing Day. But
good luck.
if you are hosting, let others help you. They can bring a dish, they can help prepare things, whatever might feel appropriate. And if the boot's on the other foot and someone else is hosting, perhaps you can offer to do something. Even if they say no, I'm sure they would appreciate the offer. But you rightly said,
Mm.
Kirsty, if you make sure it's perhaps clear what that help might look like rather than just a general offer. So, for example, it might be like, can you bring X dish for X many people? Brilliant, job done. Then it's just something you don't have to worry about. They feel like they're contributing and are bringing something, and I think it works all round. And it's an interesting one because I know that some people they don't like any help in the kitchen, do they? Are
No,
you
I
one of
don't.
those, Kirsty?
No, I mean I'm very lucky now. My husband is the cook of the household, and he quite enjoys. We have our own little tradition. We usually have my mother-in-law and brother-in-law and my son for lunch on Christmas Day, and my husband Michael does the cooking, and it's rare that he gets to do a roast meal for meat eaters. I don't really eat meat, and he quite enjoys that aspect of it. He always talks about enjoying good home cooking, and it's a lovely opportunity to do that. And there can be a little bit of stress going on. But, in my previous marriage, I did do the cooking every at home on Christmas Day, and I didn't want anybody around. I am much happier might be the wrong word, less unhappy, if I can just get on and do it my way, in my own time, without anybody else in the way or asking me what they can be doing to help, and you know, interrupting my train of thought. Maybe it's because I'm not a natural cook and I don't enjoy it very much. It just feels easier for it to be just me.
Yeah, no, I do absolutely appreciate that. I tell you what, so what I did on Christmas Day 2 years ago, I say what I did, actually, obviously it was a joint effort with my husband, who is brilliant. I have to say he's a really good cook as well. But he came up with, and I laughed at the time, but I had to eat my words, Kirsty, because he came up with I want to say Excel spreadsheet, but it wasn't quite. I think they call it a Gantt chart. Is that even a thing?
Yes,
Anyway, it
project
was
management tool, isn't it?
yeah, well, he is a project manager, so it kind of makes sense. But it was
Yeah.
kind of like this sort of flow chart of of the Christmas meal prep, which I scoffed at and then had to eat my words because actually it was just unbelievably helpful. It was kind of like working if we wanted to eat at roughly this time, working backwards. When
Mm.
does the turkey go in? When does this go in? And what we did do, which I loved, was we just instead of me serving up 10 portions for everyone, because let's be honest, by the time I finished serving up, portion one has probably gone freezing cold. We just put it out in the middle of the kitchen and let everyone just help themselves.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. Everyone just milled around, served themselves. It was like a very happy piggy merry-go-round of just loading up what you wanted, go and sit down and eat. And it just felt really relaxed and not stressful. And I'm a big fan of taking the shortcuts. I'm not going to be grappling with a massive, oversized turkey, debating which end stuffing I'm supposed to put in. I don't even put the stuffing in. Who does that? Because doesn't it just go all like squishy and horrible? I'm just like, no, not doing that. Stuffing's going to be separate. Job done. And it can also be veggie friendly because I have vegetarians in the family. I've just got two small crown joints,
Mhm.
boom, in the oven. No faffing, no smearing butter everywhere, no, having to raw turkey fingers. No, I can't be doing any of that. Less faffing, happy chef. No one's any the wiser. They still get turkey at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I think as long as you've got plenty of oven shelves and have snacks around, you can definitely take a lot of the stress away from Christmas dinner, I think. Or like I said, just do something different altogether. There is no rule that it has to be the
Beans on
roast.
toast.
Yeah, if that's what you want, have it.
I have to say, if it was left to me and it was just me and my husband, it probably would be beans on toast. So it's probably just as well it's not left to me. But yeah, those shortcuts. I mean, again, Michael loves making Christmas puddings, and he'll make them for friends and stuff. Whereas when I was responsible for Christmas dinner, unless my mother happened to have made some and offered them, they were shop bought and they were nice. Obviously, my husband's are better, and I say that sincerely, not just because I have to. But they did the job perfectly, and people enjoyed them.
Yeah. I have to say, in our household, it's all about the chocolate log. Let's be honest, Christmas cake, Christmas
I
pudding,
have
it's
to
got fruit in
say,
it. It's way too healthy.
yeah,
Out comes the chocolate log. Everybody loves it, even though people say, "Oh yeah, Christmas, love Christmas cake." No, they don't. They go for the chocolate log. I'm telling you. So two of those
my
this
son
year,
and I are
please.
big fans of the Yule log. Yeah,
It's
there's
great, isn't it?
always Yule log. Got to be done.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, it's because we're always talking about food. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about presents. And
Oh, you haven't mentioned
I think
biscuits
this is
yet.
we haven't mentioned biscuit. Yeah, biscuits
We
don't.
have now.
They're not really festive, are they? I suppose you could fit shortbread. Maybe I don't. Oh God, you're giving me a stare there, Kirsty. What's a festive biscuit?
Just Can I come back to you on that? I guess it's any
Yeah.
biscuit that you eat at Christmas, really. I think
Or
that's
just
going
cut
to
it
be
into a
my
Christmas tree
answer.
shape. Maybe that makes it, or a
Little
snowman,
Christmas
something like that.
packaging, wrap tinsel around the package. Any biscuit can be a Christmas biscuit, eaten in the right
Yeah.
frame of mind.
Tinsel in the
That's the
box.
trick.
Anything will do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, right. Anyway, we will move on from food. Let's talk about
Yes,
presents.
let's.
And this is something that actually I started doing a couple of years ago, talking about them a bit. So to take some of the pressure off of having to find this perfect gift, and does it have to be a surprise, or could it be actually something that someone wants, or at least a theme or a suggestion or something? And setting a budget, I think that's okay. I personally don't mind that at all if someone suggests it to me, or even I might suggest it, or whether you might, so my best friend and I, we now do just children, but for Christmas
Yeah.
rather than for each other. It just takes a bit of the pressure off. Or you can maybe choose to support a good cause or something instead. And I think that goes, I did this one year with Christmas cards. I mean, let's be honest, if you haven't posted it by today, your Christmas card may not arrive anyway.
And the
Maybe
stamps
do
cost way more than the cards now.
yeah, it's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. But we could go down a real rabbit hole there.
We
Back to
could,
presents.
we could.
Mm.
But yeah, or if you've got a big group of you, perhaps doing the secret Santa, or I think there's quite a lot of things you can do about presents to reduce some of the stress, either with what to buy in the first place, or how many and who for and who
Yeah.
from and all that kind of thing, because it can be so disheartening, can't it, when you feel this massive pressure to spend loads and loads of money on huge presents, whereas and I don't feel like, honestly, you really, when you think of your Christmases, for example, as a child, yes, you might remember the odd occasional gift that you really, really wanted and it was really magical for that Christmas. But I wonder if it's actually your overriding memory of Christmas. It's probably things that I remember, the 80s decorations. I really do. I love the time of year when you'd get up in the morning and we put on the Christmas tree lights. I loved it. We had the proper multicolored ones that you probably can't buy anymore because they're probably a fire hazard, and the tinsel being everywhere. Eating chocolate before like 9 o'clock in the morning, you know, that's the stuff I remember. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. What
Yeah.
about what about you, Kirsty? What are your sort of Christmas memories?
What I remember, I do remember presents, but I remember them as not being big things, but quite a lot of little things. And we had a little tradition of what we called Christmas tree presents, which were very small gifts, things. I mean, again, I'm going back to 70s and 80s, things you could buy for 50p or a pound or something, just little keepsakes or whatever. And so there would be quite a lot of these little presents, and it felt like you had loads. And yet, there wasn't that much money around, and what we weren't spending what you see some people spending on designer kit and stuff for their kids these days, which is quite scary. And yeah, it's all the people being around. So it's very much not about the memory of the big gift or indeed perfect meal, just about enjoying the food, appreciating the presents, being with the people you love the best.
Yeah. Christmas TV. I remember that. Obviously, this is going back to a different time. We didn't have all the channels on demand that we do, but it was the time of year that we used to get the Radio Times and used to look ahead to see what was the
Yes.
Christmas film on Christmas Day, that kind of thing. I remember probably cumulatively a lot more of the smaller things than the big things. So I also think it's a time to maybe think about saying no to some things and saying yes to other things. So the things that you might be thinking about saying no to, some of those extras, the things like the grottos, the experiences. Have you come across Christmas Eve boxes, Kirsty? When did this become a thing? Well, you're looking at
What?
me as if you've never. Christmas Eve box. Have you heard of this?
No.
It's a tradition, and look, if people love to do this, I'm all for it. It's like having a sort of goodie box on Christmas Eve. So you have things like pajamas and hot chocolate and
Oh, right.
um,
Yes.
socks and whatnot. And I think that's all lovely stuff, but those could equally be Christmas presents, couldn't they? So the fact that you're doing it as an extra thing on Christmas Eve, I'm saying the idea is lovely, but you don't have to, I think, always go in for all of these extra things. Just as I think saying yes to other things can equally. So for me, that is definitely I will readily accept help in the kitchen on Christmas Day, some fresh air because it'd be very easy for me to just sit on the sofa and stuff my face all day and just creating the atmosphere that you do. Now we have a difference of opinion on this one, don't we, Kirsty? We quite enjoy family game. I think board games are great, actually. I think that the variety that you get these days and how good they are, really enjoy a good board game. Is that your idea of Christmas hell? Have I just made a
No, well,
terrible suggestion?
not necessarily. I don't mind an occasional board game at all. I do have a bit of thing when, there's a big group of people who want to indulge in sort of noisy games that have everyone jumping around. And the minute somebody goes, "Oh, go on, it'll be fun," my heart sinks. Fun is a very subjective thing. Um, But yeah, I mean, I used to have a game of Cluedo, for instance. Absolutely loved that. And my son and now my niece are very fond of the card game Uno. That's always a winner, and I do enjoy that. So yeah, within reason.
Yeah, yeah, I know it's a tricky one, isn't it? When you probably got different generations and all sorts, but I think quite often you can find something that everyone can actually enjoy and just
Yeah.
get stuck into for a little while. That's a bit fun. We've been enjoying. There's a game called Perudo. That's quite fun. A little bit. It's a little can be a little bit noisy. It's just like it's quite a simple dice game. So and that's the other thing. A lot of these things don't take forever. They're not like a board game you're
Monopoly.
still playing 2 days later. Or a puzzle. I have a love-hate relationship with puzzles. I'll be
I love
completely
puzzle.
honest.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
A
that could be a whole
jigsaw.
other topic. Yeah, jigsaw. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I do quite enjoy a jigsaw, but they become addictive, don't they? They suck you in.
I do. I went through a little spell of them, and then yeah, and I had a beautiful one, and for me it was huge. It was was it 1,000 pieces? To me, that's huge, and it had one
Oh.
piece missing. Can you believe it? I was a bit
No.
gutted to notice the hole in the middle of the puzzle right at the end, but I was very determined. I wasn't going to give up until I got all of the other
Word.
999 in. I was
That's
like, no,
awful. That's
yeah.
awful. Missing piece.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure there's some clever analogy about, pieces of our lives and whatever, but it's not coming to me at the
There's
moment.
just a
So
piece missing and it's annoying. Yes.
yes, exactly, exactly. But anyway, but let's stay back on track. So I think we've spoken about some of these things, and I think you had a great idea about Kirsty about taking the pressure off day itself by having another day.
Yeah, I mean, we got into the habit of talking to family about, we'll have our Christmas with you on X date. So the people that the parent, whatever, that we weren't seeing on the 25th, so we'll be with you on the 28th, we'll have our Christmas then. And if the host wanted to, then that could be, a time of another whole nother roast dinner and doing all the traditions and things then instead of on the day. So
Yeah,
we don't have to be wedded to the 25th as the only time we can celebrate being with friends and family and having presents and eating too much. We can do that whenever we want. And
exactly, exactly. And and another good point you make us is whether you don't necessarily have to go to all of these events and parties. And if I know it's a bit difficult, perhaps there's an office one, a work one, but maybe you can make some decisions in advance about I love you said this, Kirsty, an exit strategy.
Yeah.
You could maybe be aware of, the times coming up and how are you going to make your swift exit.
Yeah, as we've talked about introversion in another episode, or maybe we're going to. We do get confused about our recording schedule, don't we? Um, yes, maybe this will be time travel. We think we've talked about introversion in another episode, but maybe we haven't yet. But it's not that you don't enjoy socializing, but that it can just get too much. It drains you much quicker than if you're an extrovert. So when there's a lot going on and you do want to show your face and you do like the people that are going to be there, you could just set yourself a little bit of a time limit, maybe. Just say, I am going to go. I'm knackered because I've been to other things, so I'm not going to stay beyond this time. Um, and leaving. Sometimes if you announce you're leaving, it takes 2 hours to get out the door and everybody wants you to stay and people are trying to force another drink on everything. So an exit strategy can be to just quietly disappear, without mentioning it to anyone. By and large, people are getting so drunk they won't know anyway. But so there are ways of handling it that allow you can still go, but you don't have to do the whole thing. You don't have to meet other people's expectations.
Yeah, exactly that. And I love this final point you've got here, Kirsty, when just touching on that thing about loneliness
Mm.
at Christmas and if this is relevant. And I think you had a really good tip around this one.
Well, yeah, there are lots of volunteering opportunities around at Christmas to go and support. Crisis at Christmas is the obvious one. Yeah, they are running centres for homeless people on Christmas Day, and they're looking for volunteers to be there. So, as long as you are, physically able to get out and do that, it's an option. And that there are other organisations looking for it, and not just homeless charities that are providing sort of activities and entertainment and food on Christmas Day. So if you are on your own and you don't want to be, then look out for that. That there are options out there. And if you're on your own and you like that, then good for you. I have I have to admit to a little bit of this fancy about being just holed up in the middle of nowhere with nobody around, not having to do anything you don't want to at Christmas, nobody knowing whether you're wearing a Christmas hat or got Christmas music on. You can do anything you want, like eat beans on toast, sit
Mm.
around reading a book all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a really good opportunity to read something that you perhaps don't have the time to otherwise. So I hope that has been helpful just to talk through a few of our ideas of trying to reduce the stress around Christmas. We've got a couple of blogs that we will share for you in the show notes as well. But we've got some quotes to share. Some of these are a little bit of fun, but hopefully you will enjoy those. The first one is joy comes to us in ordinary moments. We risk missing out when we get too busy chasing down the extraordinary. And that's Brené Brown.
That's
I
lovely,
just
isn't
like that. I think, like I said, the Christmas that when I was hosting years back, it was a very, I guess, ordinary Christmas, but it just felt really nice and relaxing and fun. There was no
it?
sort
Yeah,
of chasing anything massively extraordinary. It was just us having time together and us having a good time. And that was my kind of Christmas, to be honest.
that's where the magic is. Yeah, I couldn't resist finding a few less sociable sort of Christmas quotes.
Yes.
Santa Claus has the right idea. Visit people only once a year. And that was from somebody called Victor Borge or Borge, perhaps. But yeah, he has the right idea.
Yes. Bit antisocial, isn't it? Once a year, that'll do. Um, but I like this one. This is clearly American. This says Christmas, the only time of year you can sit around in front of a dead tree eating candy out of socks. Which I just thought, I love
Yeah,
that. Just
brilliant.
it's about the sort of silliness of it. We're just when we were talking earlier about some of the memories you have of Christmas. Yeah, why we decorate a tree in our house? It's very strange. I probably should have looked up
It is
that
odd, isn't
tradition.
it?
I do like having one. I have to say, I do like having a Christmas tree.
I will not reveal any more about humbug tendencies. Much.
Really? Oh, okay.
We did debate last year whether we were going to bother, but we did in the end.
Okay.
But just one to finish with. So I sometimes think we expect too much of Christmas Day. We try to crowd into it the long arrears of kindness and humanity of the whole year. As for me, I like to take my Christmas a little at a time all through the year. And that's from somebody called David Grayson. I think that's quite a
It's
thought-provoking
lovely.
one.
Yeah, that's really nice, actually. Again, it's about not everything being all on one occasion with all that pressure and expectation. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to be like that. So our question for you all to have a little think about this festive season is, what will you say no to or maybe yes to help you reduce any potential stress from this time of year? And for me, it is quite unashamedly and unapologetically as much of those things that we've been talking about as possible. I don't like to create any additional pressure because I think there is enough around as it is. So as I mentioned, I've got 7 this Christmas Day. I've got 10 on Boxing Day, but I'll be doing cheats and shortcuts, and I'll be saying yes, thank you to offers of help. I will be clear what those offers should be, and I'm just going to make sure there's loads of snacks around. I think as long as you've got snacks around, then I think it doesn't matter if there's a delay on the Christmas food and the bigger meals, the bigger events. I think as long as people have got access to something to eat to keep them going, no one likes to be hangry, let's be honest.
No,
Um,
let's be
the
honest.
winner.
Tub of celebrations, tub of miniature heroes, and an endless supply of tea bags, and you're pretty much done.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so. What
They
about
are.
you, Kirsty? What will you be saying no to or yes to?
I will be saying no to fun. No, bah humbug. No, not quite in that way. Again, it's we touched on this earlier. It's a continuation of what I'm trying to do, which is to honor my own idea of fun, which I do recognize is not the same as many people's, but we're all allowed to enjoy ourselves in the way that works for us. And obviously, there are times for compromise, but that doesn't mean that you can never have it the way that you want it and that you have to say yes to everything that everybody else wants to do. So you can continue to honor that. If somebody says, "Oh, go on, it'll be fun," I'm allowed to roll my eyes and go, "No." Yeah, not to
No is
stop
a
them
complete
doing
sentence.
it, not to enjoy them enjoying it, but I don't have to find it fun in the same way as them, and that's okay. And it doesn't have to be anything bigger than that.
Yeah, love that. So I hope you will all find something that you might be able to say no to or yes to reduce any stress you might be feeling this festive season. And that's it for this week. We will see you all soon for another episode of Mission Imperfect. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Mission Imperfect.
Please visit the show notes for details on how to contact us and for any resources we may have on the topic discussed.
Until next time, keep being imperfectly you. No one does it better.